Hi guys, welcome back to Information Technology 2. Just so we know what we are doing and we are sure we are together, this is the second in the series of short video slides that I'll be giving out. If you haven't watched the first one, it's in your own interest to look at this before you come to this one, and you'll notice at the top left corner I have number 2. In subsequent videos I try to keep in mind to put the number there so that you don't get lost. Before we move on, just take a moment to see if you can remember what we looked at previously. There are just a few things. Can you remember them? Well, so we looked at the definition of a computer, and I'm not going to do that now. I just want to remind you that we looked at what the definition of a computer was. We looked at the phases of technology development. We looked at input and input devices, what input is and what input devices are, the storage and storage devices. I need to remind you at this point that yes, I try to keep all the videos shorter than 10 minutes, but each of these is about 30 minutes of classroom lecture, so I'm really compressing a lot. Yes, 30 minutes of classroom lecture, but about an hour and a half of reading from your end. So I'd expect that you don't just watch the videos and leave it there, but that you will do some extra reading, as you'd find some links in the Google class and even from your own Googling. So we move on to the lecture for today. For now, we want to look at what the processor is, and you've seen the diagram on the right. If you've ever done a little bit of hardware, I'm sure you are familiar with what this device is. It's so small, you can see in the lower picture that fingers can hold it. Now in older computers, they had different processors. So for example, you had a sound processor, you had an arithmetic and logic processor, you had a video processor, and so on. In modern computers, everything is together in one, so it is called the central processing unit, and it is very small. It is actually the brain of the computer. You see that it's called the central processor or main processor. It is the electronic circuitry within a computer that executes the instructions, just like your brain executes the instructions for your body and make out the program. So it performs the basic arithmetic logic, controlling and the input and output operations specified by the instructions in the program. The instructions already stored in the program that the computer is currently running. So let's remember that we don't have different types of processors. Yes, in very big servers you may have multiple processors, but in the average computer that you use, you have just one. You would hear of dual core, quad core. These are all types of processors. It doesn't mean if you hear quad core, it doesn't mean you have 4 processors. What it just means that you have the power of 4 in one. Okay. Alright, so we move on. Yes, and then we move from the processor to the storage. I'm sure you are familiar with some of these storage devices: external hard disk, the internal hard disk, memory cards, DVD or CDs, video cassettes. Your generation, you aren't so familiar with these because the CDs came to replace those ones. Diskettes also, I'm not sure you are familiar with them, but diskettes were used about 10-15 years ago. They were very common. And then pen drives, which you are much more familiar with. A computer data storage is basically a technology that records media, and media in this case you are talking of sound, text, video, whatever, and used to retain the digital data for the computer. So anything that allows you to take data, information, instructions, whatever, and keep that in the computer is some form of storage in the computer. I would give a few questions for you, or a few things for you to do some extra reading on towards the end of the class. Outputs. You are familiar with these pictures here. Now, so in the previous class we said input, accepts data from, it allows the computer to accept data or instructions from another computer or the external environment. Output is just the opposite. It allows the computer to communicate to another computer or to the external environment. Right. So if you are listening to music and it is coming from the computer, this is output coming into the external environment, and your ears will pick that up. Or there's the content of something in the computer is translated from the computer onto a sheet of paper through a device called a printer. So in that case, the printer becomes an output device. Basically, what we are saying is that it is the communication of results produced by a computer to another computer or to the external environment, like I've said. Now, output that is displayed on the screen or comes in another medium such that it can be appreciated. That means you become aware of it, but you can't physically touch it. This is called soft copy. So whatever you are viewing now, it's the original one was produced on my computer. It is now on yours. This is soft copy. But if all that we are doing could be put on an external material like paper, then it becomes hard copy. I'm sure you are very familiar with this. At this point, from the previous class, we've looked at what input was. We've seen storage, we've seen the processor. Now we've seen what output devices entail, what they are showing. Now, certainly some more, and I'd want to keep it short and ask you to do some reading. You see the young man on your right hand side? Yes, book like him. I'd want you to do some reading because I'm going to ask questions on this before the next class. The differences between data and information. I know you are quite familiar with this, but read more on that. The differences between data and information. For example, I want you to check if sometimes what is information, that same piece of information can be data. Check that. Or something that is called data, the same piece of information can be called information. What's the difference? Let's check that out. I want you to also check on the hierarchy of computer storage. It's just good to know that we have primary storage, we have secondary, we have tertiary, we have cloud, we have offline. Read on them and be ready to be able to explain them because the quiz will ask you for that. And then you check on the units of storage. Units of storage here, what I basically want to refer to are the bytes, kilobytes, gigabytes, megabytes, terabytes, picobytes, hexabytes, and so on. Read on them and get ready to ask some questions on them before we move on to the next thing. Okay, so good luck in your studies. See you again in another class. Thank you.